What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Draft Ranking Show. We got a good one tonight, an interesting one, because today we're going to be talking about the 5 most obvious potential draft busts in the 2026 NFL draft class. I'm Cody Carpentier with the Draft Ranking Show. You can find all my stuff, all my NFL mock drafts, all my big boards and write-ups up at rosterwatch.com. Appreciate y'all for tapping in, locking in 5 days a week, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We just completed the wide receiver one series, figuring out who is the wide receiver one and why potentially, whether it's Denzel Boston or Casey Concepcion, Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, or Carnell Tate. We went through all 5 of those. We also went through the running back 2 series, who's the running back 2 in this class by Jeremiah Love. You can find all that stuff on the Draft Rankings YouTube channel as well as on podcast if you want to go back and find it on the Draft Rankings podcast feed. We're officially 2 weeks out from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and these are 5 of the most obvious potential draft busts in the class. Again, I like almost all these guys quite a bit, but they're pretty obvious bust candidates when it comes down to the end of the road and what potential stands for in their NFL ranges of outcomes. So inside my top 100, the way I have my board built out, I think first and foremost, Ty Simpson has to be brought to the front of this conversation. Ty Simpson is the quarterback from Alabama, 6'1", 211 pounds. And just from the get-go, the biggest question mark comes with the fact that he has 15 career games started. He had 28 touchdowns, 5 picks this year. Through the first 9 weeks of the season, he looked like he was the guy. He just purely doesn't have enough snaps, enough reps, enough opportunities under his belt. He was on campus for 4 years at Alabama, but just has the 1 year as the starter where he hit some turmoil at the end of the year, got sick, got hurt, got banged up, faced some, November defenses and seized up a little bit. And he's a little bit undersized to boot. And I think that there's some that's right there clear enough right now to be considered in the bust category in question, on top of the fact that there's some physical trait things where I think mentally, I think the guy is almost what you want. I would put him almost on the Fernando Mendoza level mentally, but physically, I just think we need another year, just like we're getting now out of Dante Moore. He received NIL opportunities to go back to school, obviously, this last year, even though it did seem like Alabama might have tried to push him out the door a little bit with Keelan Russell and Austin Mack being there. But Ty Simpson, to me, the clear QB2 in this class, is a bust candidate and one of the most obvious ones in this group because of the lack of just overall play. And in this class, we knew like whether it was going to be him or Dante Moore or whoever came out amongst that group, Lenore Sellers, they were going to be vaulted into this top 2 conversation like that. And Ty Simpson gets that. And if he's a first-round draft pick, and if he ends up in the spot, which I don't believe he will, but if he ends up in the spot, well, actually, I kind of do believe he might, like in Arizona, where it's going to be Jacoby Brissett. They got Gardner Minshew. Like if he's vaulted into a spot too early and that, they're trying to save their jobs and stuff, I think they'll be fine. LaFleur's there for, this is going to be his first year there. Like, I think he'd be fine in that situation, but if he's pushed too much too quickly, I'm not sure it quite gets to the finish line, and it could become a bust situation for Simpson. That's one of the best situations. If he goes to the Jets, I mean, that's a whole different view we're having on Ty Simpson at that point. That is the first and foremost. Number 2, I'm going to say off the rip that, the wide receiver group poses a group of these guys. I think you could pinpoint any of the Boston, the Tyson from Arizona State, the Lemon from USC, the Concepcion from A&M, any of these guys, I think they all have clear things wrong with their profiles, but I don't think they're big enough to where you say that guy is a clear bust, watch list guy at the next level. At the offensive tackle position, I think that is a different conversation. I think you have a multitude of dudes that have clear bust written on them. I think Caden Proctor, again, another Alabama kid that is just from day one, from the jump 2 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, he was the name that everyone wanted to latch themselves to as this is going to be the OT1 in the draft that he comes out in, 6'6", 350 pounds. At one point in his career, he was reportedly up over 390. He gets that thing down to 352, runs a 5'2", 140. at the combine, and he's come around. He's got the family lineage, but I think the biggest thing for me with Caden Proctor to say that he's a potential bust is that he doesn't have the overall fluidity that I like. I think the Fano, I think even Hianacho, the Arizona State offensive tackle in open space, I think there's question marks about, can Proctor stay at left tackle? Can Proctor play on the outside and stay on the outside? And if he goes inside, does he lose the mental edge that he has? Where I think he's I'm not saying he's a hothead, but I think he's very much a like, I'm the OT1. And if they, regress him down to, hey, you can't do that, we're going to put you at guard. I'm not saying he's going to mentally shut down, but I wonder about some of those things, and had some conversations with some people that wonder about some of those things about his. Again, it's tough to really say like he's going to mentally shut down on that, but his drive, I guess at that point would be the bigger question mark. Another offensive lineman, I brought up Iheanacho. I think Iheanacho is in the conversation just because of the lack of overall play, but I think that's more of a developmental thing than anything. I'm not going to put him in this list of 5, even though I think that conversation could be had. On the defensive line, I'm not going to go to Ruben Bain. I think a lot of people want to put Bain in this conversation. They want to put Keldrick Falk in this conversation. I'm not. I'm going to go Mesidor. I'm going to go Mesidor from Miami, who I think isn't like this catastrophic, thing, but he's a little bit undersized. He's a little bit old, and I think he's going to be good. But I've started to see a lot of mock drafts get him into the teens, and I think he's a fantastic player. I think there's times when you watch the Miami tape that Akeem Mesidor is the best player on the field for that Miami defense, who, of course, had Ruben Bain. But you're talking about a 25-year-old defensive end who, for all intents and purposes, had his super breakout come in year 6 in college. Like, he was an honorable mention all ACC guy in year 3, but year 6 was the year that was really boom, he took over. And that was, of course, playing with Ruben Bain, and Bain being now viewed as what Bain's been viewed as the last 3 years. 53 career games started for Mesidor. He took advantage of the COVID stuff. I have a lot of just like, it's more like nervousness built around the Mesidor profile than anything of saying, I mean, by year 3, and again, this is a guy that you could see by year 3, 3 years done. Mesidor has 27.5 sacks. Let's say 9 sacks a year in the NFL. I think that's a hit if you're getting him there in the high teens and the 20s. But then he's 28 years old, and you're going into contract number 2. And then what's that? I mean, I'm not talking about a bust in like 2026. He's going to suck. I'm talking about a bust in like first round pick. What are we looking at 5 years from now when you look back at this player? I think there's a lot of volatility built into this Mesidor thing, and he's not, to me, a guy that can go into a defense and be the one edge. Like, he can't go into a defense where like Hutchinson went to Detroit and he was the only guy and he did it. Myles Garrett goes to Cleveland, is the only guy, and he did it. I don't think Mesidor's a guy that can do that. So that's why, to me, he makes the list. At running back, Mike Washington. Mike Washington's a guy that we've started to see, the running back out of Arkansas, big, massive running back that I am a massive fan of. And I don't want that to get twisted in any way, shape, or form, because I'm a massive fan of Mike Washington, who I, at one point in this process, thought was 25 years old because the dates that we got were wrong. He's actually 22 and some change, going to turn 23 here in July. 223 pounds, 6'1", Mike Washington is, but didn't get over that 1,000-yard rushing season until year 5 at Arkansas. Buffalo for 3 years, New Mexico State for a year. Then he goes to Arkansas for 1. And I think just overall, he's got the north-south speed. Like, he showed the 4.33. That did not pop on all the film. There was a couple of games, the Texas game specifically, popped heavily for him, but it didn't pop on every single tape that you turned on. And the productivity didn't hit till year 5. So Matty Kiwoom always comes to me, he's like, Isaac Garendo, like guys like this. It's like, okay, well, also I've brought up the data point of running a 4.3 at north of 220 pounds from the SEC. Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, Niall Davis. I like if you're drafted in the 40s and you're RB2 in this class, there's a lot that's going to be bestowed upon your shoulders. And I'm not sure Mike Washington is quite the running back to kind of take that on. We're at the 10-minute mark, so I'm going to give you the last one. I'm not going to recap. I'm just going to give it to you right down the gullet. I think first and foremost, people are going to hate this, but when you look at the tight end position in this class, it's top heavy with some talent. It's got some good depth with some bigger cats I think project well, and Jack Endries, I think Cuevas, I think Cozell from Houston are fun. But at the top, the number one name, and it feels like a big gap, and I think the gap is too big. I like Stowers a lot more than most people. But I think right now, a guy that I think has bust in his profile is the tight end from Oregon. 6'3", 241 pounds. He ran the 4.39. He's very, very comparable to Evan Ingram. And Evan Ingram is not on his first team. He's not on his second team anymore. He's in Denver, and he's about to get drafted over. And he's not a bust. I mean, he's at a couple 700-yard seasons with the Giants. But I don't think Kenyon Sadiq is worth the squeeze here in the top 15, top 20 of the NFL draft. I think he's a clear potential bust that teams need to look out for in the 2026 NFL draft.